Hello, and welcome to another episode of That Made Your List, a weekly podcast where an average, ordinary film fan, that's me, interviews other average, ordinary film fans. Joining me for the second time, we've got Thomas Scully and Jacoby Bancroft, who are finishing off their list from last week. Hello again, guys.
Hello. I don't know if we should be hurt. You called us just average and ordinary. That's just
that's better than what I've been called, so, you know.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. I'll take that. My extraordinarily and above average.
Oh, I like that much better.
Yeah, there you go. Far better. Fantastic. Okay, after last week's one where we got halfway through the list, which stands about right, we'll jump straight into again. And we're going in with question number 11, which is, what is the favourite film from your childhood? Scully.
So, yeah, I grew up in like the early mid-2000s, and so I watched a lot of these like cheesy family films. The two that I really loved were the two Cheaper by the Dozen films, the ones with Steve Martin and Bonnie Hunt. Mm-hmm. I would watch these at least once a month. These were like required watchings in my house. And they're just great stories. Steve Martin and Bonnie Hunt, the first film, they moved from like the middle of Illinois to Evanston, which is like, if you're not familiar with the area, it's a very rural area moving to like just outside of Chicago. So it's really a culture shock for all the kids, because the dad takes a new football head coaching job. And it's how the family kind of reacts to that. And since there's 12 different kids, you get like 12 different perspectives on how it affected them. And I think it's a great story on like, it's like a part coming of age, part family comedy. Mm-hmm. And it's a really fun film. I actually enjoyed the second one a lot more, just because you have the added aspect of now there's a rival family in the mix. You have Eugene Levy coming in with his family who lives across the lake at his summer home there. And there's just a lot of hysterical moments in these movies, like moments that will just make you smile, make you laugh. One of my favorite scenes is when his daughter is on a date with one of Eugene Levy's sons, and they're in the theater, and then the two dads get into like a poking fight, and one of them almost falls off the ledge onto the concrete below. So they're really funny films, great to watch if you're a young parent. So like if you maybe just had a kid and you want to introduce them to movies, this would be something to show them that's on the lighter side. Honestly, I think this movie's good for any age. It's very relatable for parents with big families, and just parents in general. And also if you're a kid with like 4 or 5 siblings, it's very relatable.
If you're a young kid, if you're a young parent and just had a first kid, you get to watch a movie about a parent with 12 kids, and I'll freak you out for having any more.
Absolutely, that's it.
And then you'll learn next time to wear a condom.
Yeah. Does Eugene Levy also have 12 kids and Cheaper by the Dozen?
No, he has 8. He has 8 kids.
Oh, those are rookie numbers.
Just the 8. Yeah, just the 8. You must try harder.
You got to pump those numbers up.
Yeah, pump those numbers up. I get Cheaper by the Dozen honestly mixed up with Yours, Mine, and Ours.
Yeah, that one is Yours, Mine, and Ours is Dennis Quaid and Rene Russo.
Yeah. Which one is Tom Welling as a kid? Is that Cheaper by the Dozen?
That is Cheaper by the Dozen. That's Tom Welling. Yours, Mine, and Ours is like he has 8 kids, she has 8 kids, and then they mix their families together.
Yeah. Huh.
I probably totally off base. Is this the one with Ashton Kutcher in Tiff Brothers?
Yes, Ashton Kutcher, where the dog bites his crotch because the kids take his boxers and they stick him in like ground beef, and then they iron him out, and he wears them, and then the dog just bites his crotch.
Classic.
Absolutely.
It's got some stupid humor, but
yeah,
it's easy watching, I'd say.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. No, cool. I say 2003 and 2005.
Yes.
Yeah. It's that. Yeah. That they, again, for me being the slightly older than you guys.
I mean, like
it missed me.
I mean, people like my generation and maybe Jacoby's too. I mean, there are a lot of like big names in here. There's like Tom Welling, Piper Perabo, Hilary Duff, Alison Stoner, Taylor Lautner's in the second one. So yeah.
Yeah.
If you were an up-and-comer in the 2000s, chances are you were in
this movie. That's
you needed at least 12 kids of the right age.
A lot of future Disney Channel stars got their start in this movie.
Yeah. Makes sense. They say you need 12 kids that can act. So you're going to be of a standard. So, no, that's good. Okay, we'll jump over. Then, Jacoby, what you got for us?
My favorite film of my childhood is one that's connected to kind of the friends that I always watched it with. Like, this was a movie, me and my neighbors, whenever it came on, we got like super excited. We saw it in theaters, and then every time it was on Disney Channel after that, we just loved. And it is Emperor's New Groove. We just loved this movie as a kid growing up. And the brilliance of that movie is that it always stays funny no matter how often you watch it. No matter, even as I got older and became out of the kid zone, like it was just like still a movie that I enjoyed watching no matter what. But as a kid, you love Krunk, you love Pacha, you love Cusco, and you just love the whole story and everything about that. I just think it's a great kids movie that's also that carries over throughout your life. So I love Emperor's New Groove.
Yeah, fantastic. I've seen it a couple of times. It's not one that for some reason it's never drawn me personally back to them, but it's one that I like. Scully, you a fan of the New Groove?
Yeah, I watched it a couple times when I was super young, and then I didn't get back to it until like a couple years later, and then I didn't watch it again for a while. Then like just 2 weeks ago, I watched it again for like fandom studying purposes, and I loved it. Like it's hysterical. I mean, David Spade, I think, was born to play a role kind of like this sort of egotistical, snobby, pompous monarch who, like, I mean, he just insults literally everybody in his path. And the scene where he goes through his potential brides, like, nope, and you have a great personality.
Let me guess, you have a great personality.
That kills me every time. So I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite Disney animated films, but I'd say it's probably one of the, if not the funniest.
Yeah, it's also rooted in just, again, for like favorite childhood film is where I was as a child, like where the friends that I grew up with. It was a movie that I can enjoy with, my two neighbors who were like my best friends growing up. So it was just like a movie that we all just loved and connected over. So that's where the love comes from.
I mean, and it gave rise to one of the greatest supporting characters of all time, Kronk.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's
I'm going to report you to Cusco.
Cusco's poison. Is that poison?
Is it Sting? Is it Sting that got nominated?
The what? Which one? Sting?
Sting was nominated for the best original song, wasn't he? The Oscars that year for this, was it? Was that Sting?
Was he? He should have. What's his name?
Sure got nominated.
I thought that was Tom Jones.
I might be wrong. Look, you guys are far better at the trivia than me. I'm just.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm going to say yes. Even if Sting didn't write a song for Emperor's New Groove, let's just say he was nominated that year for Emperor's New Groove.
Yes,
he must have been. Yeah. In fact, you guys, Phil, I'm checking this because I'm pretty sure it was.
Now you're on a mission for Sting.
I am on. Here we go. Nominated for one Oscar, and that Oscar was Best Original Song, Sting. My Funny Friend and Me.
So what?
My Funny Friend and Me.
What is that song?
My Funny Friend and Me? That sounds awful.
That's not an Emperor's New Groove.
That's not a Disney song.
Emperor's New Groove Award, Academy Awards in 2001. Best Music, Original Song. Sting was a composer and lyricist for the song My Funny Friend and Me. Either that or IMDb's been hacked by me just now. My funny friend and me.
My funny friend that sparkles. Stars in Space.
It was not nominated for Best Original Song.
Was it not?
Dave, you have a weird British Wikipedia that's just like not accurate.
Go on IMDb.
Does your article also say Sting was the first man to walk on the moon?
Yes.
Oh,
oh well, trust me, not to trust the internet. There you go. Yeah, right. All right. Okay. Fair enough. I've embarrassed myself well enough on that. We'll stay with Jacoby, and we'll keep in that kind of groove though. What's your favorite animated?
Favorite animated movie is one that is recent. I believe it's 2018, I believe it was. It's one that is an anime movie that I think is one of the greatest just love stories, time travel stories, beautifully animated, well put together, just awesomely composed movies. It is Your Name. Have you guys heard of this movie?
No. What's your name?
Your Name.
No, my name's Thomas.
No, you should watch this. This movie is fantastic. It is so heartfelt and so smart and so affecting of a story. It's basically a body swap story. Where just this guy wakes up in a girl's body and this girl wakes up in this guy's body. Both of them are wanting to live different lives. You know, the girl who lives in the country wants to live a big city life, and the guy in the big city is he just kind of adrift in his life, and they switch bodies, and then they get to know each other through their lives, and then they start interacting. And then there's some great sci-fi time travel elements to it, and it's all held together by this real beating heart of emotion that's just so good. If you haven't seen Your Name, watch Your Name. So that's my recommendation for the day.
You sold me. I mean, I'd not heard of it until I saw it down on your list. It's I like body swap. I like sci-fi. I need to catch up on the anime. I've not seen a great deal of it. So there you go. It's somewhere for me to start.
It's good.
Really?
I think I heard of this. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of anime. I'm just not a fan of like the style of film that anime presents. Just not my cup of tea. Question: does this movie include an entire day of them exploring each other's bodies in their new bodies? Because if not, then there's no way this is a realistic movie.
The joke is that every day, when the guy wakes up in the girl's body, he's like, "I'm not going to do anything wrong." And then usually the sister opens the door, and then she's just kind of touching her boobs, like he's giving herself up.
Well, then it's at least some kind of realistic. But no, like,
and it shows the guy. Like, I think when the girl first wakes up in the guy's body, she looks at the toilet and she's just like really afraid because she looks down. She's like,
at least there's some realness to that aspect. But I will check it out. I'm not a huge fan of anime in general, but this does because like I love Freaky Friday, and that's a good body swap film. So
I might check this one out. I promise you, Your Name is better than Freaky Friday. I promise you.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, yeah. If I find it, I'll give it a go. That's the best I can come up with on that one. Are you a fan of anime in general? Do you?
Yes, I love anime. I watch a lot of anime television shows. I try to get more into anime movies. I don't watch anime movies unless they're like really, really big. Like Your Name, it was like one of the highest grossing Japanese movies of that year. Had a lot of acclaim to it, so that's why I checked it out. I want to check out the director's other movies, like Weathering You. It's supposed to be great, but I love anime.
All right, cool, fantastic. Okay, Scully, what's your favorite animated?
Definitely the hardest question. I switched my answer about 4 or 5 times, like 3 different movies, but I finally settled on one that I can watch anytime, makes me laugh, makes me smile every time. It's Aladdin.
Oh yes.
When it comes to Disney animated films, I think I think the best and favorite are different. I think Beauty and the Beast is the best Disney animated film. Aladdin is my personal favorite, just because I think the whole story arc of Aladdin in general is great. He wishes what life is like, on the side of the wealthy. He's like, okay, one day I'll get there, but then. You have the opposite of Jasmine, who wants to know what life is like outside the palace walls. The way their 2 stories interact and intermix is so good. I think it's one of the best love stories that Disney has ever put out there. And then in the middle, you have Robin Williams' Genie. I mean, there's no better supporting character than the Genie.
He is the glue that holds everything.
He's the glue that holds everything together. And that's just a testament to how great Robin Williams was in that movie. Watching that movie when I was 6. And then watching it now is so different because now I get all the inside references that he makes, all throughout the movie. Like when I was 6 years old, I wouldn't get like when he's going through the cookbook of spells. He's like et tu brute, and the hand comes out with the knife. I wouldn't understand that because I hadn't read Julius Caesar then. Yeah. And I wouldn't understand all the other inside references through his songs and stuff like that. To this day, I can still probably recite "Friend Like Me." All the way through. That's the best Disney song there is and probably ever will be. But yeah, this movie is fantastic. It's a great story about friendship, and keeping your promises too, staying true to yourself. All the classic Disney virtues, I think, come to life in this film.
I can't. What year was Aladdin? Like, I forgot.
1992.
92. See, that's what, like, those early 90s ones were difficult for me because I realized I didn't really. I was born in 93. So like really the first one that sorry, Dave. When I remember like actual watching Disney movies, like really the first one I think I connected with was Tarzan, which was 99. So that's like, well, that's when I was old enough to be like, okay, these are Disney movies. And as I grew up, I don't think I remember really going back and watching some of the early ones. Like I remember I saw Lion King for the first time when I was like 16 years old. That's a lot. And then it's like Aladdin, I watched again recently, like last year, because I'm like, I don't remember any of this. Like I'm pretty sure I've seen it, so I should watch it again. So it's like I didn't feel that connection because I missed. I was more involved in the early 2000s Disney, like Mulan and Hercules was a bit. What year was Hercules?
Hercules was 97. Mulan was 98.
Yeah, it's like Hercules, Mulan, Tarzan was like the three that I really loved and kept rewatching, but without going back and watching Beauty and the Beast, Lion King, Aladdin, Little Mermaid. Like I kind of missed those. And
that's fair because when it comes like for me, when I was growing up, Emerson New Groove came out when I was like 2 years old, so I didn't see that right away. The first Disney film I saw right away, unfortunately, was Chicken Little. It was like when I was going through my phase of getting to Disney films, like the stuff that was coming out was like Chicken Little, Meet the Robinsons, stuff I wasn't huge fans of. Then because my parents had DVD copies of all the originals, I just watched all the originals from Golden Age to Renaissance. And that's how I became such a huge fan of things like Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King, movies like that. So I was exposed to all of it at a young age because the alternative was Chicken Little and Meet the Robinsons. And I know people like Meet the Robinsons. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of it.
Oh, you're wrong. Meet the Robinsons is great.
Yeah. The Disney classics, they've got a fantastic way of having the jokes in there for the parents that are there in the theatres with the kids. They know they've got to keep the kids entertained, but they know they've got to if the parents aren't hooked, then they're not going to go to the toy shop and buy the toys that come afterwards.
Yeah.
So they've got to like this film as well. And as you say, that Aladdin is a prime example.
And if you watch like Robin Williams' performance in that film, a lot of his stuff is derived from his stand-up gigs.
Yes.
Like a lot of the tangents he goes off on, he does in his stand-up gigs. So when I watched Aladdin after watching one of his stand-up gigs, I was like, okay, well, this is like a Disney-fied version of one of his stand-up gigs. This is amazing.
Yeah. That the whole monologue of his in the Cave of Wonders before they go out, and he comes out, and it's just the Groucho Marx and the De Niro is in there, or not De Niro. The whole lot it's straight from his routine, but put into such a way that the kids are entertained, but the parents get the references that he's doing. Yeah, fantastic. So, best all-time Disney classic, you say? Was that Beauty and the Beast for you?
The best for me is Beauty and the Beast. My favorite is Aladdin, though. And like honestly, when it comes to favorite, it's flip-flop, like 1-2. Like best for me, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin. Favorites, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast.
For the classics, it's like probably top between Mulan and Mulan or Hercules, I guess, is like the ones that I really love and I really enjoyed.
So mine's Aladdin and Lion King. Lion King I absolutely adore. I like the CG version. It's not live action. The CG version that came out. Yeah. And it's the first time I've ever been truly jealous of my youngest son because he couldn't remember watching the original animated Lion King. And watched that, came into that, and didn't know what was coming. I'm sitting there and I'm singing along and I'm dancing along. But I remember and I love the film. And he's there saying, I don't know what's coming. And I'm like, oh, yeah, coming now. You got Hakuna Matata coming soon. And he's like, what's a Matata?
Although Billy Eichner and Seth Rogen sing Hakuna Matata just doesn't have the same...
No, it doesn't have the same buzz, but I'm enjoying it. But watching his face and watching his emotions as he's coming through it, it was good. It was.
I saw Lion. I think what ruined it is I saw Lion King 1.5 before I saw Lion King.
Oh, you.
That's really factored into my viewing.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Oh dear. Never mind. On that bombshell, we'll move on to the next one then, which is what's your favorite movie quote? Scully, what we got?
I ultimately went back to something that's very very popular and like cliche. It's the one from The Dark Knight. You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. There we go. That's just because that's a testament to I think how great this movie is and how well Christopher Nolan structured The Dark Knight, how he had the subsequent rise and fall of Harvey Dent is personified through that quote. It's one of the most obvious and best uses of foreshadowing in a movie, because Harvey evades death after the warehouse bombing, and because he lives and Rachel dies, he becomes the villain, and the Joker is able to turn Gotham's White Knight into an anarchist just like himself. And I think that quote, every time you see Dent on screen after the bombing, you think of that, and I think that line personifies his character as a whole and personifies, I think, the entire trilogy as a whole. Because it's not just him, it's Bruce Wayne who's affected by it, because he's always wondering when his time is done. Like, do I continue or do I risk going down this dark path that will lead me to go down a path something like Dent's? And that's why he hung up the cowl after The Dark Knight, because he didn't want to be what Dent became.
Well, he kind of but he had to. They both fulfilled that prophecy in different ways. I mean, Dent really became the villain, but they hid it because Batman to the public became the villain because he was like, I have to do this to protect Harvey Dent, so I have to become the villain, even though I'm not. But the public is going to perceive me as this. So they both followed that line of what happens if you're a hero for too long, because they both had tragic endings. One, Harvey Dent literally turned into a villain. Batman had the public turn against him and think he was a villain. Mm-hmm. So it's either way, they both fulfilled that.
That's right. That's very. And I was thinking in terms of just from the perspective of Bruce Wayne, he knows what he has to do, and he knows that, okay, well, if I do this, I can hang up the cowl and I can at least try to move on, mourn Rachel in my own time, and leave Gotham in the image that I originally meant to leave it in. Somebody, because throughout the film, he wanted Harvey Dent to sort of take over for him. Yeah. Not necessarily Batman, but as the polarizing justice figure in Gotham.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Fantastic. Okay. Jacoby, follow that one.
He gave a very intelligent, very well thought out reasoning of why his quote ties into the theme of the movie and how it's a great quote overall. The first quote that came to mind when I thought of favorite movie quotes was in The Holes, when in the flashback when the daughter said, when young Sigourney Weaver says, "I'm tired, Grandpa," and Grandpa says, "That's too damn bad." It's just such it's such a line that just sticks with me. I hate calling it one of my favorites, but it is literally one that just in my mind constantly. Whenever I want to say something like that or warrants a response, that always jumps into my mind and always that in that mindset. And then that's one that's just always in my mind, right? Because this one was a tough one. This one I have 3 legitimate answers. The other one was one just because I saw it recently. It's always stuck in my head as well. It's because I watched Big Fat Liar recently again. Oh, yeah. That movie is great. That's then with the way that Paul Giamatti said, "You can't outrun the wolf, kid," is just great. Paul Giamatti is fantastic in that movie, and that quote just totally exemplifies his character. But if I had to have a very legitimate, smart answer besides "it's too damn bad," because that's a great quote, it has to be Truman Show. In case I don't see it, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Because it's the lead up to him delivering that quote is just probably the most I don't know the word, anticipated payoff in anything, because you have God asking him what he's going to do, that he should stay in this world, that he should just live a life where everything's thought out for him and everything there. And like, you're just like, what's he going to say? What do you say, Truman? The world is watching. Say something. And then he says, in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. And he does the Jim Carrey smile and bow and then leaves. Yeah. It's just a perfect moment in a great film. So those are my 3 categories. There's one that's always stuck in my head. There's one really fun one given the performance, and one legitimate answer.
Wow.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough. I can't argue with that. With the Truman Show, it is the fantastic payoff at the end of it. It builds to a crescendo to that finishing there with that line. To go. I mean, mine. I've got 2 which I pretty much stay on a constant level. Is Stay on Target from Star Wars, from New Hope, is on there, and the greatest trick the devil ever pulled is convincing the world he doesn't exist. That one, my 2 always stick with me. Fantastic. Okay. We'll
Scully, do you like my whole quote?
Can I chime in on Jacoby?
You like it, Scully?
3. Well, I have 3 things. First of all,
that's too damn bad.
3. First of all, that the Truman Show one is a great quote. It personifies, I think, the movie as a whole. It's like I think we went over this last week. Like, that's a movie that has like a perfect ending. One of the best endings to any film ever. The Holes one, yes, that is hysterical. And if we were doing like funny meme ones, I would have chosen one from the Adam Sandler and Jack Nicholson film Anger Management, where Jack Nicholson is chastising him for letting Adam Sandler's girlfriend go out with like her friend, who like, and it was revealed like earlier on in the film that he has like a massive package. So he literally says to Adam Sandler, "Are you going to let your girlfriend go out with the dude who looked like he could satisfy a blue whale?" That right there, that had me rolling every single time I watch it. Just because Jack Nicholson says it's stone-faced, like this stone-faced, serious as all hell at Adam Sandler. And the fact that Adam Sandler didn't crack while filming that is phenomenal. So I mean that would be like my meme-worthy option. But all 3 of those are great.
So, and a winner. Okay, fantastic. We'll move on down the line, and we'll stay with Jacoby. And who is your favorite actor or actress?
My favorite actor is I watch a lot of television, and when I first got exposed to this actor, it was an amazing character. He played a prohibition agent who was just kind of a little bit crazy, who was just a little bit insane. And he had this raw intensity to him, and it portrayed it. That show was Boardwalk Empire. Then this actor would go on to almost every other single role that he plays, just embed it with just this raw intensity and anger that I just cannot help but love watching no matter what. So my favorite actor is Michael Shannon. Like, I love this dude so much. I just think in every maybe he doesn't give like the greatest range in a lot of his performance because most of it always comes down to just screaming anger. But he's just so much fun to watch in every single one of his roles. And I will watch anything that has Michael Shannon. He's one of the rare actors that be like, I don't even know what the movie is. If like Michael Shannon's in it, I want to watch it. So I love Michael Shannon.
No, okay, that's cool. Scully, thoughts? Are you a Shannon fan?
Well, I don't watch as much TV as Jacoby does. I don't think anybody does. But I do like Michael Shannon. He was great in Man of Steel. He has a lot of other really good roles, like sort of like smaller roles. He doesn't have the most range, I think, of a lot of actors, but this is still a solid choice.
He's great. If you want to see really just super intense, check out he's great in Revolutionary Road, which he was nominated for. He's great in Take Shelter, which is a movie just where he thinks there's an oncoming storm like invading him and no one believes him, and he just cracks and he's just like trying to hold his family together. He's great. But if you want a nicer Michael Shannon, check out Take Shelter. Not Take Shelter, sorry, I just said Midnight Special. Where he plays like a night dad. Yeah, where it's like he's not screaming in anger for anybody. And if you want a really fun Michael Shannon performance, check out Premium Rush with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He's like he plays a corrupt cop.
Oh, is that the bike one?
That's the bike messenger one.
I forgot he was in that.
Yeah, he's the bad guy. He plays like Bobby Monday or something. And he's just like this really corrupt like cop who hates young kids. He's like, he called me a jack-off, and then he laughed. Like, and he was in Groundhog Day. Yes, he was. That was his first like cameo appearance. He shows up in a lot of like weird, just like bit parts. Like he's Eminem's step or boy, the boyfriend of his mom in 8 Mile. He's he's a security guard in Vanilla Sky. Like for some reason, he's like a Marine in World Trade Center. He shows up a lot. He's great.
He's. Oh my god, I'm trying to go through it now, which I don't trust IMDb anymore, thanks to this. He's got 95 acting credits on IMDb. That's just phenomenal amount.
His most interesting role is when he plays Elvis opposite of Kevin Spacey's Nixon. It's like Elvis and Nixon in the movie.
Oh, right.
Ooh, wow.
It's just a really weird movie.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. It's you seen Knives Out? You watched it?
Yes, he's great in that.
Yes. Yeah. I really
will not eat shit. So good.
Yeah. No, fantastic. Okay, Scully, who we got? Favorite actor?
Well, I just talked about him in like the last one like 2 segments ago, I think. It's Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Like you want to talk about range? This dude has it all. I mean, just like his first film role was Popeye, like Popeye the Sailor, one of the most ridiculous cartoon characters ever, and he's able to rise to the challenge and take that role head on. Yeah. Then he does something like The World According to Garp, where he's like some regular Joe Schmo who has like weird like imaginations like of things, weird visions of things. Then he does stuff like Good Morning Vietnam, where he's fantastic in that. Dead Poet Society, which is probably my favorite performance of his. Just gives such a raw, truthful performance, being this father figure to all these boys who are struggling through this time in their lives. Then you have something like The Fisher King, which he's fantastic in. Of course, Aladdin, Awakenings, he's awesome in. And then of course, Good Will Hunting. I mean, I think he definitely. I think he deserved the Oscar for Dead Poet Society more, but I think Good Will Hunting, he also deserved it. So yeah, and then he kind of dropped off in the 2000s, where he did stuff like RV and like I can't remember. It's like Toys or something like that, or I guess
he paid the bills for a decade.
That's an idea. But like his later roles weren't great. I loved him in the Ninth Museum films. He was great in those, I think.
Great Teddy Roosevelt. Yeah.
But just the way he can go from being hysterically funny to just stone-faced dramatic at the turn of a hat is better than almost any actor I've ever seen. Just the range of his performances is astounding. I don't think any other actor can replicate the diversity of roles that he has been in, from anywhere like this enigmatic genie of a bottle to like this really down-to-earth father figure who shares his emotions with the people he's mentoring, to like a mental hospital doctor, to something like Patch Adams, where he's like this sort of silly doctor and stuff like that. It's not a great movie, but he does give a great performance. He's one of these that elevates every single movie he's in. He elevates the movie from a shit movie to an okay movie through just his performance. So yeah, he's like the day he died was one of the hardest days of my life, because like I absolutely loved him as an actor and as a human being. But yeah, I mean, gone way too soon. He could have had a lot of other great roles throughout his life. But yeah, he is my favorite actor.
No, absolutely. To see the first one that really popped him out from being I'm the funny wacky guy, I'm the genie and all that, was when I watched his performance as in Insomnia.
Oh yeah,
Insomnia and Photo. Those two performances there is the creepy, is the bad guy. Yeah, really blew, because I hadn't ever pictured him as ever being in that kind of role. He'd always been, he's the genie, he's the Good Morning Vietnam. To go into that, become that kind of person again, it's just
I always wonder how that role came about. Like, it's just like, did Christopher Nolan be like, I have this role, and it's just like, you know who I really want to play this, just to see. I want Robin Williams in this role.
Well, because he had done stuff like Toys and 1 Hour Photo, where he's like
the 1 Hour Photo and Insomnia kind of
the really creepy stalker kind of vibe.
Yeah,
but also it like boils down to just his emotion as a person. I think he could have done other critically acclaimed roles like that, but I think roles like that is what brings out the most of the true Robin Williams. Somebody who has a lot of demons in his past. He's made a lot of mistakes. And I think that's the most truthful version of Robin Williams we see. And that's why he didn't do a whole lot of those in his career, because he wanted to do more of like the roles that made him be the person he kind of wanted to be instead of the person he really was.
Yeah.
So roles like that, I think, didn't help him personally, but he gave such great performances in those. And it's just, again, it just speaks to his range.
Yeah. I mean, to have such an impact, and just all the great, just like you throw out all these great movies like Hook, like Jumanji, like
oh my God,
like
Hook.
just all these. Hook, he's so good in Hook.
I love Hook so much. Hook, a lot of people like to ride the Hook hate train. If I could literally destroy that train with C4, I would. It's a fantastic movie. I don't care what anybody says. It's the best live action Peter Pan we've ever gotten and will ever get. So Disney, stop with your Peter Pan reboot.
Dying though, we're gonna get new ones like every year until the day we die.
Yeah.
But the thing with Hook is that Robin Williams was perfect for that role, because him, somebody who once was a joyous, playful kid, has grown up, forgotten that side of him, and seen him in Neverland acting like a kid again. Again, that speaks to like what Robin Williams kind of wanted to be. He wanted to be the fun guy, but he wasn't really that. He was more like Peter Banning, the rude, snobbish accountant. I think that's what his role was, or something like that.
There's something.
It was something in up the corporate ladder. But that was him creating a fantasy of who he wanted to be, and that is where we get some of the best performances of his.
I mean, he was just a force. Like, I just remember like my mom telling me. I remember when she was like, whenever Robin Williams was in studio for interviews and stuff, like they were just like, oh God, Robin Williams is here, because like he just would just go off on these tangents and on these riffs, and like in a lot of his movies, like there wasn't like scripts written. It was just like little subpunches, like Robin Williams like riffs, like he just does his thing, like for everything like that.
I mean, with like Good Morning Vietnam, you just give him you give him a live radio, and then you just set him free.
Yeah. Going back, you're showing your age there, Garth. So I'm not the oldest one on the watching now, because that's a little bit before my time. Happy Days and Mork and Mindy there. So thank you for watching. Fantastic. Okay. Any more comments on either Michael Shannon or Robin Williams?
I remember Robin Williams. I was having a fight, a pretty bad fight with my then girlfriend at the time. And it was like pretty bad. But then like during the fight, that's when we got the news alert that Robin Williams died. And it was just like, we were like really intense, like arguing. We're like, oh shit. like totally diffused the argument, like whatsoever. But it was like brutal.
Yeah.
Nothing like the death of an actor to help your relationship.
Yeah. Okay. On that wonderful note, that one, we'll move over. We'll move over to one that has, on occasion, given up some interesting answers. So we'll stay with Scully. What's your most overrated movie?
Well, this movie, when it first came out, it was the talk of the world. Everyone thought this is like the greatest thing I've ever seen. The man who made this, he is a visionary. He has shown why he's one of the greatest of his time. He came out with Titanic. That was amazing. No, it wasn't. It's Avatar.
Wrong.
It's Avatar. I remember watching this movie for the first time when I was about 11 years old. I was at a friend's house, and I was spending the night there, and we watched Avatar. I remember he put on Avatar at 8:30 at night. By 9:15, I was asleep. I was dead asleep 45 minutes into this movie. I literally turned to my friend and I said, "Wake me up when something happens." I woke up like 9 hours later. And then I tried to watch this movie again when I was like 15. Couldn't get through it. I finally got all the way through it when I graduated high school. It's not. The visuals are great. I will give it credit. It has some of the best visuals I've ever seen. However, the performances are not great. The whole story of the film is not great. It's just it's underwhelming to the highest extent. And I just don't understand why. I understand why people say this is the greatest thing ever, because sometimes visuals can sort of entrap your view of how the movie is actually quality-wise as a whole. But this movie, it doesn't do anything for me. And the fact that it got nominated for so many awards besides the technical stuff is astounding. James Cameron, he knows how to grab us. He knows how to grab us by the balls and take us for a ride. Titanic is also massively overrated in my opinion, but this is more overrated. Avatar.
Absolutely. As much as obviously this list is all subjective, it's your personal choices. This is the correct answer. This is the correct answer. Yes, it is a technically fantastic film. The way he was able to create the 3D world and the visuals and everything, absolutely fantastic. But it's an adult Fern Gully.
That is accurate. That is so accurate.
That's it. It's not an original story, but Jacoby, are you going to defend Avatar?
I'm not, and that's my problem with calling Avatar overrated, because I can't find a single person now who's still on the Avatar train who really I get it. At the time, it was flash in a pan. It was the movie that you needed to see, and that's why it grossed over like almost $3 billion, because it was new and it was inventive and it was something special. But like it has not held up anywhere near in the long term of people who watch it now. I just can't find people who like it. That's why I would say it's overrated. I'd say because I think everybody. I bet everybody in the chat. Maybe Tony's in the chat. I would bet Tony would be the first person to say
Tony probably loves this film,
so never mind. But, I agree with you. That is way over. Like, what was funny? The funniest things were to come out of Avatar, like the South Park episode where like the dances with wolves and like the Smurf dances with Smurfs. So it's like you can't just take it and add blue people and call it the same story and everything like that.
It's just that for me, I am friends with a lot of like casual moviegoers, and a lot of them are still on the Avatar hype train. Avatar is such a good movie, right? I know the story might not be completely whole, but the visuals are what make this movie great, and the performances, they're so good, and this movie is just a masterpiece. I'm like, no, it's not. Look past it. Look past the visuals. And it's I guarantee you, if it weren't for the visuals, this movie would have been like what Cats was this year, just a massive flop on every sort of level.
But hey, we're getting 4 sequels that come out. It's like that's the problem. It's like I get it that he had to wait for so long because he's literally inventing the technology to make these movies, and I think they're going to be visual feasts. But it's like by now, I just think it's not going to make anywhere near the money as the first one did. I think it's going to be successful. Maybe the first 2 are going to be successful, but then like 3 more after that, I think people are going to get tired.
Yeah, I can't. I don't get it. I don't get what studio greenlights 4 sequels straight off the bat. Can you see all 4 coming out?
Is it like 20?
If you're James Cameron, who has proven to be hits, and one again, if it's like it was the big one, these 4 movies were greenlit and everything, and in production and everything, it was still the highest grossing movie by far. I think $7 billion.
I think 20th Century is producing it, and they're under the Disney tree now. So now they're getting an influx of money because it's Disney, and they have more money than they know what to do with.
Yeah. No, fair point. It's rated 7.8 on IMDb, which, as I've proven now, I just really don't trust anymore either. Just another reason not to. Okay, fantastic. Anything else on Avatar?
Sucks.
Yes. Like I say, Boatman's in the chat. Agreeing 10 years ago, people were saying it was overrated. Now nobody really cares.
You'd be surprised to see how many people still care about this movie.
I think
you would be shocked.
Fans, we all hate it, but maybe the average.
And when the sequels start to get the marketing train rolling, you're going to have people come out of the woodwork saying, "You remember how great the first movie was?" Guarantee you're going to have a strong contingent of people who are going to be on the Avatar hype train because they still think the first one was good.
I think there's going to be a re-release to try to push it to see if there's
Well, that's how they broke the 3 million mark. They re-released it like every month for like 8 months until it broke Titanic's record.
Yeah.
I say Cameron, he's very, very good at inventing the technology he needs to do it. He did it with the Abyss. I think it was that the whole alive water, Titanic. He was massively creating technologies. He was filming with it. It was overrated, yes. And again with this one, the 3D technology, the camera work and the visuals of it. But yeah, it just needed an original story to go with it for me. But okay, so Jacoby, what we got?
For the most overrated movie, I again chose a recent one just because I think it is the most overrated movie of last year. I think it's one that had a lot of hype to it and even won a few Academy Awards. I think the most overrated movie is Ford v Ferrari. I think this movie was massively just overhyped. Like, yes, the racing scenes are great, but I think structurally that story has major issues in terms of how it's telling its thing. Like, it basically builds up to 2 major races, but it's like there should only be one major race for the way that story is put together. Like, it's like halfway through the film, even more than halfway through, like 3/4 through the film, he has to do a race to get into the final race. But like, we know as an audience that he's going to make it to the final race. So everything about that is just irrelevant. And plus, I hated Matt Damon's character in it because Matt Damon literally does nothing in that movie.
Well, then you hate America.
I do, because he's bland. He doesn't have a character arc. He doesn't do anything. And at the end of the thing, like they have to literally give him something to do while Christian Bale is racing, which is like sabotage the teams next to him by like, stealing some screws or like making phone calls or stuff like that. Like there's nothing to it at the end. And then I won't spoil the ending, but like the ending is like, oh, this is happening. Like, okay. Like, I guess that's that. I don't want to talk more about that, but I hated this movie I thought it was boring and from almost start to finish. The only thing that was cool was the racing elements.
Okay. I've not seen it, so I can't comment.
I love Katrina. What's her name? The wife of Christian Bale is Katrina Belfort. Belf, sure. She's an Outlander, which is a great television show. She's really, really good in it. But here she was just neglected to like the wife that's just like, yeah, you can do it. Believe in your dreams. Don't race, but also do race. Like, do all this stuff and believe. I hated this movie. I hated it.
Yeah. No, not seen it, so I can't comment. Scully, you look like you're primed.
Wrote something down.
I have 2 things. Number one, look for Doug Castle to be in your room tonight with brandishing a knife. Can you spell recency bias? Because holy shit! I mean, my God, we shit on Caleb Coho for his recency bias, but my God, man, I think you've taken the cake for most recent recency bias.
I am bringing forward a movie I'm bringing forward movies on this list that to talk about in a more recent thing. It's easy to talk about the movies like Avatar, the one that everybody hates from 10 years ago.
But you couldn't find one that has at least had time to age?
I think that it's enough to talk about. So you're saying in 10 years' time, everyone might hate Ford v Ferrari, and then
maybe in 10 years' time, people will go back and think, "Oh my God, this movie was a masterpiece," and you might think, "Oh wait, no, it wasn't." Maybe it's gonna be like Avatar, where now it's really popular, but in 10 years' time, some of the diehards will have cooled off, but you'll still have casual fans who still think, "Oh my God, this movie's amazing." Like, okay, I understand your rationale, but the movie came out like 4 months ago.
Sure, and maybe if there were brave souls like me who hated Avatar when Avatar first came out, it got nominated for a lot of technical awards. Everyone loved it then, and now 10 years later, everyone's like, "Yeah, Avatar sucks." I'm getting on the train right now, saying in 10 years' time, everyone's going to say Ford v Ferrari sucks.
There's a difference between hopping on the train and just jumping on the tracks, and you just jumped on the tracks.
Yeah, you're on the tracks, head of everything, going choo 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 to yourself. You're making the whole movement with the arms. It's
okay. It is a poor excuse for a movie.
Also, I only said "Do you hate America" because he plays Shelby, which is he plays the Ford guy, and he's like a staple in the American car lore.
Yeah,
sure. To give him something to do next movie, like make a movie like that makes him interesting. I'd watch it then.
Well, I mean, I can't fault you for hating on Matt Damon. He turned down Manchester by the Sea to do The Great Wall. So,
yeah, that's not a good film.
I will back you up on the Matt Damon stuff.
I love Matt Damon.
I know.
Movie.
Okay. Anything else? Anything else on Avatar or Ford versus Ferrari?
Nah.
Nope. Okay, we're going to flip this over onto its head then and stay with Jacoby. What's your most underrated movie?
Most underrated movie. I have two. One is a adult crime movie. One is a kids movie. The first one is this crime movie, which I love. It stars an actor who should have more work, and it has a really phenomenal cast around him. That movie is Lucky Number 11, starring Josh Hartnett, who is just a great leading man, and he's surrounded by this awesome supporting cast. It's like Lucy Liu, Morgan Freeman, Bruce Willis, Sir Ben Kingsley, and Stanley Tucci around it. It's just this great caper of a crime whodunit thing that's just, I think, a really well-written, fun script about two warring mob bosses who live across from each other, can never leave, and Josh Hartnett, who's kind of stuck in the middle of it. He's a great presence as this leading guy, and it's just, I love this movie growing up. And I love this. I love it still now, and I'm sad that it's not talked about because I'm afraid it's not a good movie. But I think it's a really great movie, so that's why I think it's underrated. My other one is one that it's a spin-off of a popular animated franchise. It is Penguins of Madagascar, which I think that's the reaction. It's like when you think Penguins of Madagascar is a good movie, but then you sit down and watch it, it is fucking hilarious. It is great. It's a movie you have to see because it's so smart in its jokes and its pop culture references and its structure. It's just hilarious. So Lucky Number 11, Penguins of Madagascar, 2 underrated movies.
Okay. All right. I love Lucky Number 7. It's one I own physical copy of it because I'm old. It's one I must admit I've not seen in a little while, but I will dig out and watch again. Yeah, Bruce Willis, Morgan Freeman and Josh Hartnett, needs more work. So,
yeah.
Sorry, Scully, talk.
I think Josh Hartnett didn't do more films. 2 words: Pearl Harbor. That
he was pretty bad in that.
For lack of a better term, torpedoed his career. But I've never seen Lucky Number 11. It actually sounds really good. So maybe down the line I might.
That's the takeaway from this: is watch Lucky Number 11.
Yeah, I think that just soared to near the top of my watch list. In terms of Penguins of Madagascar, I haven't seen it in a year or so I'll probably have to go back to it. But I do remember that it was pretty funny. It did have a lot of pop culture references. Benedict Cumberbatch was actually really good in that film as the head of the North Wind. But I also remember thinking that the movie wasn't structured very well. It's a DreamWorks movie that's easily forgotten about. And also it was released in November. So I don't think anybody went to see it because you're talking about November of 2014 is when you had all the other great Oscar movies of 2014 coming out. It's I'll have to watch it again, but I will say I do need to watch Lucky Number 11.
Yeah, Lucky Number 7 is great. Penguin of Madagascar as a spin-off, it is, for me, it's got to be one of the best animated spin-off ones that's going on around there.
Although the bar for animated spin-offs is not very high, though.
Well, no, and it exceeds it. Oh God, what we've got going on in the chat here? Boatman gets Smoking Aces and Lucky Number 11 mixed up.
That's fair.
Yeah, they came out so similar kind of time, and Tony Heald, 40 Days and 40 Nights.
Because wasn't Hartnett in the No Fap movie? Yeah, he was. 40 Days and 40 Nights. He's okay in that one. That movie's not very good. But he took a break for a while. There's a show called Penny Dreadful, which he is great in. So that's where if you
brilliant show.
He's great in that.
Yeah.
And 30 Days of Night, he's a lot of fun in, as Garth says.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, moving over. Scully, underrated movie.
I have talked about this a couple times, I think, on NBE. I went on a mini rant about it during the top 100 list because it made the top 100 list, and I was very excited. It still didn't beat Saban's Power Rangers. Fuck you, Ryan Permison. But it's like I said last week. I'm a big fan of like the period piece war epics, especially when it deals with like emotional trauma. It's Tom Cruise, I think, one of his best roles. He plays a very scarred, emotionally wounded Civil War veteran.
Tropic Thunder.
Close. It's The Last Samurai. This movie is, I believe it's perfection. Tom Cruise plays a very PTSD-ridden former Civil War soldier. He is a veteran of not just Civil War. He's a Civil War hero, but he also participated in the American Indian raids in like the 1860s and early 1870s. He was a part of a bunch of Native American massacres around that time. And we see him in 1876 in San Francisco. He's doing like a trade show there. He's promoting in like a new like double barrel shotgun. And he's an alcoholic trying to forget his demons. And he's hired by his former superior to help train the new Japanese army to fend off the samurai who are pushing against the Meiji Restoration period that went on in Japan in that time. And when he gets to Japan, he's sort of immersed in this Japanese culture, and he eventually is captured by the samurai, and he learns the ways of the samurai through their culture, their fighting techniques, and he ends up joining them in the end. And it is such a great film about like the horrors of war and the emotional scars that can be left behind. It also perfectly paints a picture of like Japanese culture in that time, the sort of the culture clash between like the old samurai ways and the new Western ways that the emperor wanted to bring from like the Netherlands, the US, the UK, France. And Tom Cruise's character just like he gets immersed in this culture war, and he has to pick a side, and he ultimately picks the side that captured him and showed him a whole new way of getting over his PTSD through the ways of the samurai. And also stars Ken Watanabe, who got an Oscar nom for this. He's fantastic. Timothy Spall has a small role in this. Billy Connolly has a small role in this. Tony Goldwyn from
Tarzan.
That and the
TV show Scandal.
Scandal. Oh yes, he was in Scandal.
He was the president.
He plays like the most dickish U.S. Army sergeant ever. And the way Tom Cruise's character kills him in the end, spoiler alert, is fucking awesome. But the best part about this film is the soundtrack. This is by far Hans Zimmer's best work. If you haven't listened to the soundtrack, please go listen to it. It is beautiful, perfectly blends the Japanese type of music with his, like, imagine his score from The Thin Red Line, add some Japanese elements to it, and have some more rousing choruses. That is this soundtrack. It is beautiful. I am stunned he didn't get an Oscar nom for this. It is his best work by far, and it elevates the movie to a whole nother level. So it's my second favorite film of all time, actually. I'm shocked more people haven't. The people who have heard of this film, they name it like the Saki film, because there's a scene in the film where Tom Cruise is just yelling Saki at the top of his lungs when he's like trying to sleep at night and he's not getting the alcohol he wants. It's kind of funny, but also it speaks to like how far he's fallen. But yeah, I love this movie to death. It's one of the best sort of war films I've ever seen.
I don't even need to see it now because you've explained it so well, because I still haven't seen it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's so much as an underrated one as I think it's more of a forgotten. It passed people by, I think. I mean, it nominated for 4 Oscars. It's those that haven't seen it liked it. In a year like 2003, when you had a lot of like other films that were not like got the nom for Best Picture, I think this easily should have been a Best Picture nom. Probably, I don't think it would have won, but it definitely should have been like the 5th nomination. Okay,
I gotta check it out. I really need to. It's on my list. I think after you raved about it on our top 100 list, I think I put it in your top to like check out.
Never mind, Grant. You can't agree with everyone. Okay, yeah. So I've seen it once, and it's one I can tend to forget about a little bit. But there we go. Never mind. Right, we'll move on. We'll move on to what is. So, Scully, name a film that you like that no one would expect you to.
So I am like, some of my guilty pleasures are like certain kinds of rom-coms. One rom-com I do love watching every holiday season is The Holiday. This is a film I love. Cameron Diaz, Kate Winslet, they swap homes for the holiday season because they want to get away from like their environments that they're living in. And they both meet guys who like they never expected to meet, which is a cool aspect. And also like seeing Jack Black in a rom-com is kind of odd, but he handles the role really well. Also, I think the chemistry between Kate Winslet and Jack Black is a lot better than I think anybody would have ever thought. They have great chemistry in this film. Same with Jude Law and Cameron Diaz. And the whole side story where throughout the movie you think Jude Law is this like raging like Lothario who sleeps with like a bunch of women. Turns out he's actually a single dad, and he can't meet with Cameron Diaz's character because he has parental responsibilities. So that's a nice touch to it. And just seeing sort of like the journey like Diaz's character takes throughout the film is great. So yeah.
No, absolutely. I mean, it is a great holiday film. It's one that I watched a couple of months back when it was on TV over here. It's my favourite part is back with Jack Black, and it's there, and he's at the keyboard with Winslet by the side, and they're trying to get the tune for, I can never remember that actor's name, for
Eli Wallach.
That's it, for his walk-up speech for his Lifetime Achievements Award. And he's there and he's all scared. It's a total Jack Black moment with him doing it, just scatting the tune out.
I think it's a very like naturally Jack Black kind of role. He can be silly, but also very genuine at times, and it's one of my favorite roles of his personally.
He's great in the Blockbuster store when they're walking through, and he's like pointing out in there, and he's doing and
then you see like Dustin Hoffman in the bag. He's like, I can't go anywhere.
But I love Jack. I love this movie overall. I mean, to watch it every year, one of its mandatory holiday watching. Because I think everyone is pretty great in that. I love Jude Law. And I love the Cameron Diaz. I think it's like the weakest part of that movie, but I think overall the relationship is strong.
I would tend to agree.
But it's like, because I like Jude Law so much because he's just Jude Law is charming, just like anything that he does. He's great. It's like I hate him because he just seems perfect. It's like, and then
I hate how beautiful you are.
Yeah, it's just like you just have it all. Totally. It's like, but no, I love The Holiday. But yeah, I guess I am surprised. I wouldn't think of you as a rom-com type of guy.
That's why I picked it.
Yeah, there we go. And we'll put the shoe on the other foot. Now then, Jacoby, come on then, hit us with it.
This one's hard. This one I think was probably my hardest one because it's like there's really no type of genre of movies that I don't like. So it's like, because I love rom-coms. I mean, I love them a lot. I love action, sci-fi,
dinosaurs.
Comic book. I love them all. So it's like I had to choose one that I guess a surprising one. It's just Kung Pao Enter the Fist. Do you remember that cheesy dub?
Vaguely.
It's a movie that stars no stars. It's dubbed over and CGI in like this American guy in like old karate films. It's hilarious. It has, I don't even know how to explain the plot of this movie. It's just about a guy who becomes a kung fu champion, and he has a tongue that's like the chosen weapon of everything. And
I'm sorry, his tongue?
His tongue, right? He's like, that's the sign that he's the chosen one. It's like, and like has a face, and it was like, what's up? It's incredibly stupid. Like on almost every single level. He fights a cow that knows kung fu. He punches a hole through a guy, like, and then like it just like the jelly like bobs out of him, and like the narrator's like, oh, look at that. That's just weird. There's no like vital organs or anything. It's just like a mound of fats like off to the side. You can see it there. There's a guy who fights with like a claw. There's aliens.
Yeah, I mean,
Kung Pao Enter the Fist.
The IMDb storyline for it is Kung Pao Enter the Fist is a movie within a movie created to spoof the martial art genre. Steve Oderick used contemporary characters and spliced them into a 1970s kung fu film. The main character, the Chosen One, sets off to avenge the death of his parents at the hands of a kung fu legend, Master Pain. Along the way, he encounters some strange characters, one of which is a cow trained in the martial arts. And at that point, I'm out.
Oof. Oh my! This is a movie I'd probably watch drunk. Honestly, this sounds like a movie I'd watch drunk. Yikes. Yeah, I mean, give me this film and probably a bottle of scotch as well.
Yeah.
And just see how long it takes for me to die of laughter.
Have you seen it, or is this like one that you might?
I have not seen it, but this sounds like a film I would not even in a million years attempt to watch sober.
I sent you the best line. I just sent you the best line from that movie, where it's a guy who shouts, "That's a lot of nuts," because he goes to the thing because he tries to buy peanuts. And he goes like, that
thumbnail looks like a visually younger version of Henry Winkler.
It does from that, but it's like it does. But yeah, basically he goes to the.
It's like a de-aged Henry Winkler.
6 pounds of nuts, and the guy goes, "That's a lot of nuts," and then that's basically the gist of the movie.
Okay,
you should watch this movie.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. I mean, normally on these, I normally end up with some kind of film and a list of films that I've not seen that I really should. That ain't making
it. Not on there. Kung Pao for the
no, not at all. Okay, any other anything else on Last Samurai or Kung Pao Enter the Fist?
He chose the holiday.
The holiday.
The holiday. Sorry, my bad. Yes, sorry. That was it. I was on the wrong question. Okay, moving on then. Two. What's your favorite classic? We're going back into the genres. So, Jacoby, what's your favorite classic movie?
There's a lot of really great classic films, but the one I chose is the one that I watch every single year on Christmas. It's like this one's like definite required viewing. Like no matter what, it's the feel-good movie that just makes me cry every single time. It is, of course, Frank Capra's "It's a Wonderful Life." I just think. Wrong. You Scrooge McDuck.
Yes, I did.
The Christmas film about suicide. It makes you smile.
It does at the end because it's about how no man who has friends is truly without anything. And it just shows how this one guy, this George Bailey, just gave everything to this town without even realizing how much he was doing for the people in his life. And it's just all these people at the end who gave him money and just hope and dreams and just inspire him to live again. And because he gave so much to them that they give so much back to him. It's like, it was like no man is poor who has friends. And it's just a beautiful movie. And I love it.
Okay.
It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah. Okay. So thoughts?
Yeah. This is a great film. Again, it's required watching every Christmas. It's the best like self-reflection movie I think you could come up with. Because he doesn't really understand what he's done for the people around him until he's gone, or until he sees himself as like never existing. So yeah, I think that it's a film that I think the story it's a film that I think any film goer would want to put themselves in that position just to see what the world would be like if they were gone. So it's a movie that I think affects a lot of people on a certain standard, because there are a lot of people who go through what George Bailey went through at the start of the film. So it's a great movie about self-reflection. So yeah, this is a really good choice.
Look, it's not one that hits with me. I know I am massively in the minority with there. But yeah, it just misses me. I don't know what it is about it, but so we'll move along. We're moving on before digging myself into too deeper hole with a beloved film. And you go, Scully, what's your favorite classic?
I was between two, and I went with the one that I think people are gonna. The one I chose it over is the one that more people are gonna like, but the one I chose is The Sound of Music.
Okay.
I was raised in a household that cherished The Sound of Music. Like my mom, like it was required watching because it was on ABC like literally every Christmas. So like my mom loved it, my dad loved it, my sister loves it, my grandparents love it. Like, and I just think it's my favorite musical of all time, and I think it's one of the best sort of love stories of all time. It's slightly problematic, but I love it nonetheless. You have the story of the wannabe nun who has to take care of 7 children, and she sort of finds her purpose in life when she's with them. Because the one thing she loves more than anything is music, and she wants to bring music, and she brings music back to this household that hadn't experienced music since their mother died. I think that's a really powerful aspect. I think the best moment of the film, I think, is when the children are singing to Baroness Schrader, and the father hears them. Captain Von Trapp hears them and then joins them in singing, because like it's the first time he's really been exposed to music like that since his wife died. And it just signals the power that music can have among people, especially families. I love the soundtrack. I am in the minority that I think Edelweiss is the best song of this whole movie. Just because that speaks so much to Captain Von Trapp's character, and it dives deeper into the person he really is. I think he's my favorite character in the entire film, just because the internal struggle between wanting to stay true to his country, but also wanting to serve in some sort of aspect, because he senses the war is coming. He knows that at some point he will be forced to fight alongside the Nazis as a part of their naval force, because he was a naval hero back in the day for Austria. So he knows that he's going to have to make a choice someday. And you see how that has an effect on his children, and how that affects Maria as well. And I like how the last sort of 45 minutes, Maria takes a back seat to Captain Von Trapp, which I think is great filmmaking, because Maria has really told her story. Her story not ends, but like you can cut it off, and when she gets married, the rest of the movie is about Captain Von Trapp. The rest of the movie is about him making the choice to escape with his family, to relieve them of the potential pain of him dying in battle, and the pain of him having to fight alongside the people that he despises, and people who have taken over his country. So this movie is so much more than just music. It's more than just Julie Andrews singing her heart out. So yeah, I absolutely love this movie.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, I think for everything that you just said was great. It was like, because it is a great musical on its own, but it's like there's so much going on in that movie besides just the music. Like it's really like really heartfelt, really deep, affecting story that I think, and it blends together so well that I could tell such kind of a tragic, such a hard, such a tough storyline, such everything, but with the beauty of music around it. So overall, this movie's a winner.
Yeah, no, absolutely fantastic. What was the other one, out of curiosity?
The other one I had was The Searchers, and that's my hands down my favorite Western of all time.
It's a good choice.
It's just that I watched it. It's like I hadn't watched The Searchers until I was like 17, and the first time I watched Sound of Music I was like 3 or 4. So like the Sound of Music is something I will willingly go back to. But The Searchers, like it's hard to find The Searchers anywhere online. But like if it's on TV, I'm putting it on. That's like one of my favorite Westerns. It is my favorite Western of all time.
Yeah, that's good. Fantastic. Okay. So we'll move on. We're nearly there. We're getting to the end. We've nearly made it. We'll go to film with the best soundtrack. It's not score. This is the soundtrack. Scully, what we got?
Yeah, because you said not score, this was much harder. I went with a film that I recently rediscovered. It's Almost Famous. Almost Famous. It's one of the best. I think personally, it's Cameron Crowe's best film. He tells a very accurate portrayal of the era he grew up in, sort of from his perspective as a young teenager. Because like the main characters, I believe, is based around him at that age in that era. And just the soundtrack with like the late 60s emergence of rock and roll, and the way that music personifies all the emotions in that film, like the scene in the van where everyone is like, there's all this tension between the band members, and all of a sudden Elton John's Tiny Dancer comes on, and it all is wiped away through the use of that song. It's the biggest example of how, like with The Sound of Music, how music can bring people together, how music can just cut bonds and bring people together. The rest of the music in this film is also great. I think any film with like a songs from that late 60s, early 70s era, they always do such a great job of conveying emotion, because that's what music was at that time. It was all raw emotion of how people felt in that tumultuous time period. Almost Famous does that almost better than any film in that era.
Yeah, no, it's a great soundtrack. I really enjoy this. Jacoby, thoughts? Yes.
The music is so ingrained in that movie to give it the feel and its heart and everything about it that it's great. They have some good. The original songs are good, and again, the scene of them singing "Tiny Dancer" on the bus is probably the greatest use of a song. I just think or top 5 moments in like any movie with a song, because it's so good and so parodied and so gimmick now. But like that's the original, and I agree with you. It's Cameron Crowe's, I think, best film by far.
Yeah.
It's good. Haven's coming up with Forrest Gump soundtrack, which again is another one as it goes through the years. It throws up a good one. But
that's another one where I think that it transcends time. I think it helps with the story along, but I think the story of Forrest Gump helps with the story along better than the soundtrack does. Almost Famous, I think it takes control of the film completely. So that's
no problem. Okay, Jacoby. What's your favorite soundtrack?
Yeah, for my best soundtrack, I chose the soundtrack from Pulp Fiction because I think it's such a representation of the movie itself, which is just these kind of mismatched, unthematically sounding, like different types of styles of songs at different moments, kind of put together to create this really cohesive whole. And I think that kind of describes like the movie itself as like on that level. Like I love his use of music to introduce characters, just like with like Jungle Boogie at the beginning of like the opening credits after the after the robbery scene. Mia dances her overdose scene to "You'll Be a Woman Soon." I think.
Oh yeah.
She's doing it. She's dancing because you just know something bad's going to happen, and she's dancing to it. You have what's another song on that one? Oh, it's like I love when when like Bruce Willis is singing like "Counting Flowers on the Wall that don't bother me," like before he's like singing and driving before he runs into like Marcellus Wallace. I just think this soundtrack is all over the place, but in a really great way. I think usually you can say, if soundtrack's all over the place, then it's bad because it's sporadic. It doesn't make much sense. There's no connection to it, but it works perfectly in this film for what the film is trying to say. I love the Pulp Fiction soundtrack.
I mean, Pulp Fiction itself as a film is kind of sporadic and all over the place anyway. So the music does help blend and gel that in together with it. It really does just throw with it.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. One I watched, literally watched for the first time. I watched Royal Tenenbaums for the first time today.
I haven't seen it in years, but I think I remember.
I was sitting on the sofa and my wife turned around. So right, okay, we're watching a film. What are we watching? So this Royal Tenenbaums. Do you want? And she 10 minutes in, we're like, but the music in that it's really all Beatles and old time. I really enjoyed that one as well. Okay. Any other thoughts? Any thoughts on Pulp Fiction?
Yeah, this is this soundtrack is great. It definitely speaks to how this film is kind of all over the place, which I think is the genius of Tarantino. He chose the soundtrack, I think, very carefully, and it elevates just the feel of the whole movie from the scene where Vincent and Mia are dancing in like the 50s style diner. That's great, to her overdose scene, to the scene where he runs into Marcellus Wallace, which just the scene where just the moment where Marcellus Wallace just like looks to the side.
Son of a like he stops and like it's so good.
Yeah, it's a pretty perfect soundtrack, I think.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Okay, we'll move on then. We've got to the final question. We've made it. It only took us nearly 3 hours combined. Yeah, nearly 3 hours combined. And we'll stay with Jacoby. But what's your favorite franchise?
My favorite franchise. This was an easy one to pick, I think, because I think this is the franchise which I almost love every single installment. I practically do, even though there's one installment on here that's really derided. I still think it has some merit, and I think it's one that it's the only franchise that I think reinvented itself in a really creative way to have movies that both fit with its modern times, but also honoring the legacy that it came before. So my favorite franchise is the Rocky franchise. I think these movies are just so good on like, because you have Rocky, which is just probably one of the greatest underdog sports movies I think ever, because it's so good on a character level, it's so good on an emotional level. But then you have the films after that kind of evolve the franchise into something else. I mean, like, I love Rocky 4, but it's like I love Rocky 4 in a different way than I love the first Rocky movie, because, you know, the first Rocky movie is like a legitimate Oscar-worthy contender. Rocky 4 is just this pure cheese fest of America versus Russia. And I can still get the same thing out of their fights, like at the end. Like the final fights in all of these movies are ones that I always cheer for. And then, of course, even its mid-resurgence in 2006, Rocky Balboa, is actually a pretty good movie, because I think it really honors, like, the edit. I understand the critique that the editing is pretty weird. Like it's techno, it's like all over the place. But overall, the story of it honoring the original movie, which, like, can he go the distance? Can he still have it when he's counted out? It was both similar and different enough to really stand out. And then, of course, the Creed movies are fantastic. Like nowadays, like both of them, I love, again, for different reasons. Like the Creed movie, I think, is a really great character-driven story of everything, and the second one is a little bit more cheese, but you still just cheer so loud for like when he's fighting, and it's just so well done. So the Rocky franchise is hands down my favorite franchise.
No, absolutely fantastic. You say that it's for a film that's what, seven films in now? Yeah, eight. Of course, Bob, I forgot about that. Yeah, well, it's only really the one with Machine Gun Tommy Morrison in that's divided. Yeah, it's only really that one that's sort of divided.
Yeah. That one's bad, but it's like I like what they were trying to do with it. They're trying to do something else, and I do like the street fight at the end. Come on, it's kind of great when he was tagged. Like, I didn't hear no bell. Like he's going, he beats him. It's fun.
Yeah,
sure, it's the worst one out of all 8, but it's
it is.
Yeah, Scully, thoughts on Rocky franchise?
Yeah, I love this movie. I don't love it as much as others. I think I'm in the minority where I'm not a huge fan of Rocky 4. I think Rocky 3 is my favorite of the franchise. So like Rocky 3, Creed, Balboa, I think are like the upper tier. And then like middle tier is like Rocky 2, Creed 2, and Rocky 4. And then the low tier is Rocky 5.
Yeah.
So I think you definitely stack them into like various tiers. Some are a lot better than others. I just think, like, especially the first 5, like it's so choppy. Like first Rocky's great, second one is okay, third one is great, fourth one is okay, fifth one is crap. But I think the last 3 that we've gotten are really good. Balboa is better than people give it credit for, and Creed is just so damn good. I would have honestly. I think, like, when it comes to Creed and Rocky, honestly, Creed could have gotten a Best Picture nom. I think
they really should have.
For that. So yeah, I love those movies. I don't love them. I just think the consistency wise, it's a bit off. I never really connected with the franchise as much as other people did. That could be due to my age, because I didn't grow up with these movies. I was exposed to them maybe when I was like 11, 12 for the first time. So yeah.
That's what I remember. That's like the problem. I think it was Bibiani who was talking about, like, Creed was like a good movie, but it's kind of just a rehash of the first Rocky story. Like, it's like, it really is. It's like, it's very similar, like, story wise and ending wise and everything like that. But I think, as someone who wasn't alive, like, when the first Rocky was like born, like I didn't get that. It was like a way for a younger generation to, like, experience the Rocky story for the first time. Like, because that story is universal, just the underdog coming up from nothing and proving against all odds that he can go the distance. It's like
what Force Awakens was for Star Wars fans, because you have a Star Wars generation who didn't experience A New Hope for the first time. They're experiencing Force Awakens like their parents did with A New Hope.
Yes, that's why it's like all the criticisms of just like, oh, it's the same thing. It's just a rehash. Do something new. It's like I get it. It's like they're bringing. It's like it's new for the people who weren't around for the first one.
Yeah, no. So it's a greatest hits compilation.
Yeah,
yeah. Okay, fantastic. So Scully, here we go. You got the last say. You got the last part of the last question. What's your favorite?
This is a no-brainer. This franchise. It part of this franchise. It was the first film I saw in theaters. First few films I saw on DVD. First film I owned the entire collection on Blu-ray for. Read all the books as a kid. Went to the book premieres as a kid. Saw every movie like within a week of like when it came out, except for Goblet of Fire, which is like a whole thing I won't get into. But it's Harry Potter. It's gotta be Harry Potter. And that just speaks to the generation I was in. When the first film came out, I was 2 years old. I saw it in the theaters with my parents. I don't remember a whole lot of it. I remember watching the Diagon Alley scene as a kid in the theater, but that's about it. But yeah, just seeing all the movies, experiencing them for the first time, it was, not to sound cliche, it was magical. It really was. And looking back on it now that I'm more refined in my movie taste than I was when I was a kid, just seeing the difference in filmmaking from like Sorcerer's Stone to Prisoner of Azkaban to Goblet of Fire to Order of the Phoenix to Deathly Hallows. We won't talk about Fantastic Beasts because J.K. Rowling has hurt my soul these last 5 years with her choices. But the Potter franchise is and will always be my favorite. I think my favorite is Prisoner of Azkaban. I think it has. It was my favorite when I was a kid. It's my favorite now. The filmmaking is fantastic. Cuarón does a fantastic job telling a new, going from a new kind of perspective in the wizarding world. Goblet of Fire is amazing. I think it's so slept on as a film. Even Chamber of Secrets, who a lot of people don't enjoy because it's essentially the same kind of structure as the first film, but like 25 minutes longer. That's the biggest critique of it, and I get that. But it's still great. The only film I have issues with is Half-Blood Prince, and that's purely because they derive it very little from the book. They still have like the storyline, but they focus a lot more on the teen drama bullshit than Voldemort's actual backstory, and that's what I love most about the book. So I was really irritated when I saw that in theaters, but the film does save itself with the last 45 minutes. The last 45 minutes, Half-Blood Prince, I think it's one of the most well-done endings to any Wizarding World film. And it really saves itself. And I think breaking the last film into 2 parts was very smart. There's no way you could have told that whole story in even a 3-hour film. I think you needed to break it up because that's about 5 hours of filmmaking between the 2 films, part 1 and part 2. And Hallows Part 2 is I think it's my favorite. Prisoner of Azkaban is the most well done, but part 2, Hallows, is my absolute favorite. It's a great ending to the franchise. So yeah, I love everything about this franchise. It was my childhood. I hope J.K. Rowling can get the stick out of her butt and just hand off the screenwriting to somebody else. Have her be a consultant, but have the screenwriting off to somebody who knows how to write a good screenplay, because Crimes of Grindelwald was oof. It was a big oof.
Yeah, I'd say I've watched a very interesting video about like the Prisoner of Azkaban, like how like the behind the scenes that came onto it, like when switching over from Chris Columbus to Cuarón. It's really amazing how much that kind of saved the franchise by like giving it a distinct image and giving it a distinct tone and attitude going forward. Like there's like little things that just like Cuarón letting them have their uniforms, like just dress like you want to dress, like dress how you would dress when you come out there. Or it was like the first time you saw wizards using magic really without saying the words, like with everything, like it's like the wizard twirling his coffee like with like a stick of stuff. Like his world building in that movie is great. Set the stage for everything going forward. I am curious because like I love Deathly Hallows Part 2 itself, and I love the books and everything. But I have a friend who loves Harry Potter as well. They don't like Deathly Hallows Part 2 because they change Voldemort's and Harry's final fight from kind of a really more like straightforward duel and everything and especially the ending when Voldemort literally disintegrates. It's like, well, the point of the books was his body is dead because he's a man, because he's nothing, but everything. But they turn it into like this CGI action slugfest around the castle and everything like that. How do you think?
I've heard that critique a lot.
Yeah.
And in the books, it is basically 5 minutes of them walking in a circle in the Great Hall while everybody is there, and then him like taunting Voldemort, and then they both point their wands at each other, and then 10 seconds later, the fight's over.
Yeah.
That is not, and I get why they changed it because it's not cinematic.
Yeah.
Having it just be him and Voldemort flying through Hogwarts in like the way Voldemort transports himself, the way all the Death Eaters transport themselves, and then having the final fight in the courtyard where it's just ruins all around them, and they're both trying to get to their wands.
Yeah.
I do agree with the critique that like he fades away like a man. I think that's also a David Yates thing. I think David Yates has made some decisions that are not great in the wizarding world. That I think is one of them. I personally didn't mind it as much as others, but I would have liked to have seen him dead as a man instead of just like this magical entity, which is what he was depicted as in his death.
Yeah. I agree. I was just curious.
No. Okay. Fantastic. We've made it. We've done it. We've got to the end.
Wow.
We're there. We've made it.
7 hours later.
Yes, absolutely. 3 hours over 2 episodes. Thank you very much, guys. It's over. We've done it. Thank you very much, Thomas Scully, Jacoby Bancroft. You've been great. Thanks for jumping on here on the first 2 video that made your list. It's going along on the tick on the end there. If you want to get hold of us, I say us as if I'm a company. It's me. If you want to get hold of me, we've got Facebook page that made your list. We're on Twitter at that made your, Instagram, which is perfect for an audio podcast feed. I found it's a brilliant social media platform. It's that made your. If you want to get on the show, like Garth, who's been in there, and Aaron J, who's gone there, email me at thatmadeyourlist@outlook.com. Yeah. I'll send you the question list and we'll arrange to get you on here. He's been Thomas Scully and he's been Jacoby Bancroft, and this has been That Made Your List. Thanks for watching. Now the awkward time when it carries on going after pressing
go watch
podcast.
Punch the Fist.